The small research ship hung silently in Earth's orbit, its advanced cloaking systems making it invisible to human detection methods. At least, that's what Dox 427 thought, until the message came through. Unknown vessel in orbit. This is the Korean Space Agency. Please identify yourself. Dox 427's four hearts nearly stopped beating. The voice belonged to Dr. Do-Young Kim, and it wasn't supposed to be possible. Their technology was far beyond anything humans should have. Yet here was this creature, this human, casually breaking through their most advanced cloaking systems. How? Dox 427 whispered to himself, his outer membrane rippling with shock. How did they detect us? The answer came a few minutes later when Dr. Kim's voice returned. Unknown vessel, we detected your heat signature against the background radiation of space. If you can understand this message, please respond. Dox 427 quickly sent an emergency signal to the Galactic Council. Humans weren't supposed to be this advanced. They weren't supposed to be this aware. According to all previous studies, they should still be arguing about whether space travel was possible. Instead, here they were, not only detecting a cloaked ship but doing so with technology they had apparently cobbled together from basic physics principles. Remarkable, muttered Dox 427, his scientific curiosity overtaking his initial fear. He began recording his observations. Species, human. Observation. They've developed advanced detection systems using only basic scientific principles. Note, their understanding of radiation and heat signatures suggests a concerning familiarity with deadly forces. The comm system crackled again. This time, Dr. Kim's voice carried a hint of amusement. Unknown vessel, we can also detect your communication signals. Your encryption is impressive, but you're still generating traceable patterns in subspace. Dox 427's recording continued. Update. Humans appear to have casual understanding of subspace communications. This suggests technological advancement far beyond previous estimates. The Galactic Council's response arrived quickly. Maintain position. First contact protocols are now in effect. Do not engage without authorization. But before Dox 427 could acknowledge the order, his ship's sensors detected something new. A small vessel was approaching from Earth. Its design was simple, almost crude by galactic standards, but it moved with surprising grace. Unknown vessel, this is Dr. Do-Young Kim. I'm approaching in a shuttle for visual confirmation. Please don't shoot me. That would make for a very bad first impression. Dox 427 stared at his monitors in disbelief. The human was joking about potential death. In a space shuttle, while approaching an unknown alien vessel. Note for record, Dox 427 spoke into his recorder, his voice trembling slightly. Humans appear to have no appropriate fear response to potentially lethal situations. Through his ship's viewport, Dox 427 watched as the human shuttle performed a perfect matching orbit maneuver. Dr. Kim's voice came through again. I can see you now. Your cloaking technology creates a subtle distortion in the star field. Fascinating design. Would you mind if I took some readings? Dox 427 quickly added another note. Most concerning observation. Humans treat potentially lethal first contact situations as scientific opportunities. Species appears to lack basic survival instincts. The Galactic Council's new message flashed on his screen. First contact authorized. Proceed with caution. Initial reports suggest humans may be classified as Deathworld species. Dox 427 looked out at the small human shuttle, where Dr. Kim was calmly taking readings of his advanced alien spacecraft as if it were the most natural thing in the world. With growing unease, he realized that the Council's warning might be an understatement. Final note he recorded. The scariest part about humans might not be their technology, their resilience, or even their casual approach to deadly situations. The scariest part is that they think this behavior is completely normal. With a deep breath, Dox 427 opened his communication channel. Dr. Du-Young Kim, this is Research Vessel 427. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I accept your first contact. Dr. Kim's response was immediate and cheerful. Wonderful. Would you like to come down for some coffee? Though I should warn you, it's quite strong. Docs 427 didn't know what coffee was, but something in Dr. Kim's tone made him add one final note. Addendum. Humans appear to enjoy sharing potentially toxic substances as a social custom. First contact had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Ra-8 had studied 17 different alien species during his career as a xenoanthropologist. None of them had prepared him for humans. As he sat in the office of Han Bin Lee, the Korean cultural attaché, he watched in horror as the human casually stroked a small furry predator that sat on his desk. Is something wrong? Han Bin asked, noticing Ra-8's distress. You seem uncomfortable. That creature, Ra-8 pointed with one of his sensory tendrils. It has sharp claws and teeth. It's clearly a predator. Han Bin looked down at the cat and smiled. Oh, you mean my son? She's just my cat. Would you like to pet her? Ra-8's color shifted to a pale yellow, indicating extreme confusion. You named the predator. Of course. She's been my pet for 3 years now. Most humans keep pets. Dogs, cats, birds, fish. Han Bin paused, noticing Ra-8's color growing paler with each species mentioned. Ra-8 quickly added to his research notes. Humans domesticate predatory species for companionship. They appear to have no natural fear of creatures evolved to kill. The cat, my son, jumped down from the desk and rubbed against Ra-8's lower appendages, causing him to float a few inches higher in his gravity suspension field. She likes you, Han Bin said with a grin. That's a good sign. A good sign that a predator has marked me as prey, perhaps, Ra-8 muttered, but he dutifully recorded the interaction in his notes. Han Bin laughed and stood up. Let me show you around our facility. I think you'll find it interesting. As they walked through the Korean Space Agency's Cultural Exchange Center, Ra-8 observed humans engaging in various activities that made his scientific mind reel. In one room, people were lifting heavy weights far beyond what their muscles should safely handle. In another, they were practicing what Han Bin called martial arts, deliberately striking each other. Why do humans intentionally put their bodies under such stress? Ra-8 asked. To get stronger, of course, Han Bin replied. How else would we stay fit? Ra-8 added another note. Humans deliberately damage their muscle tissue to force it to rebuild stronger. They view this as normal exercise rather than self-harm. They passed a break room where several humans were gathered around a table, consuming dark liquid from small cups. Ah, coffee break time, Han Bin said cheerfully. Would you like to try some? Ra-8's sensors detected the chemical composition of the drink, and his color shifted to alarmed orange. That beverage contains multiple toxins. Oh, you mean the caffeine? Yes, it helps us stay alert. Many of us drink it several times a day. Ra-8's notes grew more concerned. Humans intentionally consume neurotoxins for their stimulant effects. They have apparently evolved not just immunity but addiction to certain poisons. As they continued their tour, they came across a group of humans watching something on a large screen. They were cheering as 2 humans on the screen jumped out of a perfectly functional aircraft. What is this madness? Ra-8 asked. Skydiving competition, Han Bin explained. It's a sport where people jump from high altitudes and perform acrobatics before opening their parachutes. I used to compete myself, but now I only do it recreationally. Ra-8's final note for the day read, most disturbing observation yet. Humans seek out potentially fatal situations for entertainment. They have transformed survival scenarios into recreational activities. Subject Han Bin Lee speaks of jumping from dangerous heights as casually as one might discuss a meal. As they returned to Han Bin's office, my son the cat was waiting for them, perched on top of a high shelf. She gracefully jumped down onto Ra-8's head, causing him to emit a high-pitched squeal of alarm. Hanbin quickly helped remove the cat, trying not to laugh. Sorry about that. She really does like you. Indeed, Ray 8 said faintly, adding one last note. Even their domesticated predators exhibit concerning levels of casual fearlessness. Further study required to determine if humans have somehow transmitted their death-defying nature to other species through prolonged contact. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 200 species shifted uncomfortably in their environmental suits as they waited for the human delegation to arrive. At the center of the hall, Jai-Ho Park adjusted his tie, completely unaware that his ability to breathe the standard atmosphere was terrifying half the audience. Remember, the council leader addressed the gathered representatives. No sudden movements. Humans can interpret rapid motion as a threat and may respond with devastating speed. Jai-Ho held back a smile as he heard the warning. He checked his notes one final time before the formal presentation began. As Korea's chosen diplomat for this historic meeting, he had to make a good impression. The council leader's voice echoed through the hall. We now recognize Earth's representative, Jai-Ho Park, to present humanity's case for joining the galactic community. Jai-Ho walked to the center platform, his footsteps echoing in the nervous silence. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small silver flask, and took a sip of coffee. Several alien representatives flinched at the casual consumption of what their sensors identified as a potent neurotoxin. Honorable members of the council, Jai-Ho began, his voice clear and friendly. On behalf of Earth, I thank you for this opportunity. We look forward to sharing our knowledge, culture, and resources with the galactic community. A representative from the methane-breathing Crix species raised an appendage. Question. Our studies show that humans regularly expose themselves to temperatures that would kill most species. How do you explain your people's habit of deliberately entering rooms heated to near-boiling temperatures? Jai-Ho looked confused for a moment, then smiled. Ah, you mean saunas. They're quite relaxing. Would you like to try one? The Crix representative's environmental suit released a puff of distressed methane. Another representative, a crystalline being, spoke up. We have reports that humans intentionally consume fermented substances that poison their nervous systems. Is this true? You mean alcohol? Jai-Ho chuckled. Yes, many of us enjoy a drink now and then. In fact, I brought some traditional Korean soju to share after the meeting. The crystalline being's surface clouded with anxiety. As the questions continued, Jai-Ho remained cheerful and open, not realizing that each answer was causing more concern among the council members. He explained human sports, describing them as fun activities rather than the survival training exercises the aliens assumed they must be. He talked about spicy food, not understanding why the council was horrified by humans deliberately eating pain-causing chemicals for pleasure. The council leader interrupted after Jai-Ho casually mentioned human children playing with fire-producing chemistry sets. We need to confer privately. Please wait outside. Once Jai-Ho left, chaos erupted in the hall. They're clearly a Death World species. Their young practice with combustion. They drink poisons for enjoyment. They expose themselves to radiation for darker skin pigmentation. The council leader called for order. We must make a decision. Earth has advanced technology, and humans are clearly resilient. Do we accept them into the galactic community? A senior scientist spoke up. What's most concerning is not their physical capabilities, but their complete lack of awareness about how extraordinary they are. They think everyone lives like this. Outside the hall, Jai-Ho waited patiently, sipping his coffee. He checked his phone, looking at pictures from his daughter's first rock climbing lesson last weekend. I hope they're not too worried about safety regulations, he muttered to himself. It would be a shame if we couldn't share our extreme sports with them. The council doors opened, and a junior aide approached Jai-Ho nervously. The council has reached a decision, it said, trying not to stare at the coffee cup. Earth will be accepted, but with a special classification. Handle with extreme caution. Jai-Ho beamed. Wonderful. Let's celebrate. I brought enough soju for everyone. The aide's translator struggled to process the mix of terror and fascination in its response squeak. Dr. Suje Kang's laboratory was unlike anything the alien scientists had ever seen. Instead of the expected sterile white walls and quiet atmosphere, rock music played in the background while her research team casually handled dangerous materials with minimal protection. "Could you please turn down the noise?" asked Chief Researcher Vix, his protective bubble shimmering with stress patterns. "Oh, sorry." Suja reached over and lowered the volume. "We find it helps us focus. Now about our findings on human physiology." Her assistant, Taiwan Cho, walked in with his arm wrapped in a bandage. The alien scientists moved back in alarm. "Don't worry," Taiwan said, noticing their reaction. "Just a small cut from rock climbing yesterday. It'll heal in a few days." Vix's recording device activated automatically. Humans can repair major tissue damage in days. They consider this normal and unremarkable. Suji pulled up a holographic display of human medical data. "We've compiled some interesting comparisons between human resilience and other species. For example, our bone density is..." She stopped as she noticed all the alien scientists had moved to the far end of the room. "Is something wrong?" You broke your leg 3 times," one scientist asked, looking at Suji's medical history. "Oh, that." Sujai laughed. "Sports injuries from my cycling days. They healed just fine. Look." She jumped up and down to demonstrate. Several aliens recorded the incident as an example of terrifying human recovery abilities. Taiwan brought out their test results. "We've found that humans can survive in environments that would be lethal to 90% of known species. Here's our data on temperature tolerance." The alien scientists watched in horror as the humans casually discussed their ability to survive in freezing conditions, extreme heat, and high pressure. What the humans considered uncomfortable, most species classified as absolutely fatal. "And here's something interesting," Suji continued, pulling up new data. "Our bodies actually become stronger when exposed to certain types of stress. We call it adaptation." Vix's recording continued. "Humans not only survive deadly conditions, but actively grow stronger from them. Evolution has turned their response to death itself into a survival advantage." "Watch this," Taiwan said enthusiastically. He picked up a weight from the corner. "This is twice my body weight, but with training, I can lift it." The aliens observed in terrified fascination as Taiwan demonstrated weightlifting. Their sensors indicated his muscles should have torn apart, but instead, they functioned perfectly. "And here's my favorite part," Suji added, showing more data. "Human children. Their ability to recover from injuries is even more remarkable than adults." "Your young are more resilient?" Vix asked, his voice trembling. "Of course. Kids bounce back from almost anything. My nephew fell from a tree last week, and he was back climbing it the next day." The alien scientists huddled together, updating their research notes. Human young display enhanced recovery abilities and show no learned fear response to dangerous situations that have previously caused them harm. Suji noticed their discomfort and tried to help. "Would you like to see our extreme environment testing chamber? We can demonstrate human survival capabilities in various..." "No," all the alien scientists shouted at once. "Well, how about some lunch then?" Taiwan suggested. "The cafeteria is serving extra spicy kimchi today. They intentionally eat capsaicin." Vix whispered to his colleagues. "The chemical weapon. It's delicious," Suji said, not hearing them. "Though I should warn you, we had to tone it down after last week's incident. 3 researchers got competitive about who could eat the spiciest version." Vix's final note for the day read, "Most disturbing discovery. Humans turn deadly chemical exposure into competitive events. Their pursuit of delicious pain defies all rational explanation." As the alien scientists left the laboratory, they could hear Suji and Taiwan discussing their weekend plans for something called bungee jumping. They decided it was better not to ask what that meant. No one expected the reactor coolant system to fail on the Galactic Council's newest space station. But when it did, engineer Yanji Ba was having her lunch break, calmly eating ramyeon while reading maintenance reports. The emergency alarm started blaring through the station. The alien crew began rushing to their emergency shelters, their environmental suits flashing warning signals about the rising radiation levels. Warning: critical reactor failure. All personnel evacuate immediately. Radiation containment failing. Yanji put down her noodles and checked her tablet. "Oh, that's not good," she said, in the same tone someone might use to discuss mild weather. Station Security Chief 69 rushed into the break room, his protective fields at maximum power. "Engineer Ba, you must evacuate now. The radiation levels are reaching fatal levels." Yanji looked at her radiation badge. It had turned dark red. Yes, pretty high dose rate. But someone needs to fix the coolant system, or the whole station will be lost. But the radiation will kill any living being." Zix9's translator struggled to convey his panic. "It'll make me pretty sick." "Yes," Yanji agreed, standing up. "I'll need some treatment afterward, but I can handle about 10 minutes of exposure. That should be enough time." Before Zix9 could stop her, Yanji grabbed her toolkit and walked toward the reactor section. The alien crew watched through their security cameras in horror as she manually overrode the safety locks and entered the reactor chamber. "Recording emergency log," Zix9 spoke quickly. "Human engineer Yanji Ba has entered lethal radiation zone. Radiation levels are impossible. She should be dead instantly." But through the cameras, they watched as Yanji calmly worked on the coolant system. Her movements were quick and precise, even as the radiation sensors went off the scale. "How is she still functioning?" one alien technician asked. "Those radiation levels would melt our species' neural pathways in seconds." "The human is singing," another noted with disbelief. Indeed, Yanji could be heard humming a K-pop song as she worked. 8 minutes later, the coolant system came back online. The radiation levels began dropping immediately. Yanji walked out of the reactor chamber, looking slightly pale but otherwise normal. "There we go," she said, checking her tablet. "The backup systems are engaging properly now. Though I think I'll need to visit the medical bay for some anti-radiation treatment, and maybe throw up a few times." The alien medical staff were beside themselves when she arrived at their facility. They had never treated radiation exposure at these levels in a surviving patient. "You should be dead," the chief medical officer stated bluntly, looking at her radiation badge readings. "Oh no, humans can handle quite a bit of radiation," Yanji explained as they gave her treatment. "It makes us sick, yes, but it takes much more to kill us instantly. We're quite radiation resistant compared to most Earth species." The medical staff added to their growing file on human biological capabilities. Humans classify immediately lethal radiation levels as will make them sick. They view radiation exposure as an acceptable risk if the situation demands action. As Yanji received her treatment, she remembered something. "Oh, my ramyeon must be cold by now. That's the real tragedy here." The medical staff watched in confusion as she laughed at her own joke, seemingly unconcerned about having just survived radiation levels that would have turned most species to liquid. Later that day, Station Commander Lix updated the station's safety protocols. In event of radiation emergency, locate nearest human engineer. Warning: human will likely underestimate danger to themselves. Do not attempt to prevent human intervention. This will only waste time they could use to fix the problem. In the medical bay, Yanji was already asking when she could return to work. "I have maintenance scheduled for tomorrow," she explained to the horrified medical staff. "Just a routine check of the backup systems. Nothing dangerous." The medical staff weren't sure whether to be more frightened by what humans could survive or by how casually they survived it. Cultural Officer Minji Ryu smiled warmly at the group of alien delegates gathered in the Seoul Olympic Stadium. Today was her chance to show them how humans enjoy their free time. She didn't understand why they all seemed so nervous. "Welcome to our sports and recreation demonstration," Minji announced cheerfully. "We'll show you some popular human activities that help us relax and have fun." The aliens' environmental suits displayed various colors of anxiety as they watched the first demonstration begin. A human child, no more than 10 years old, walked onto a balance beam that was twice her height off the ground. "First, we have gymnastics," Minji explained. "Little Sunha here has been practicing for 2 years." The aliens watched in horror as the child performed flips and spins on the narrow beam. Their sensors detected enough height to cause fatal damage if she fell, yet the girl was smiling. "Don't worry," Minji said, noticing their distress. "She's wearing safety equipment, and there are mats below." "The padding would not prevent death for our species," one delegate whispered. "Oh look, here comes the boxing demonstration." Minji pointed excitedly. 2 humans entered a roped-off area and began striking each other with their padded fists. The alien delegates huddled together as their combat analysis systems registered the force of the impacts. "They are damaging each other for entertainment," one alien noted in terror, "and the observers are cheering." Minji led them to the next area, where people were climbing a sheer rock wall. "This is one of our easier climbing walls," she explained. "Only 15 meters high. Perfect for beginners." The alien's translator struggled with the word "only" in that context. "And here's my personal favorite," Minji said, leading them to the pool area. Swimming. The delegates watched as humans deliberately submerged themselves in dihydrogen monoxide, a substance that could easily cause death by drowning. Some humans were even diving from high platforms into the water. "Is this some kind of survival training?" one delegate asked hopefully. No, just for fun." Minji laughed. "Though we do have competitive swimming events. Would you like to see some race times?" Before they could decline, a loud cheer erupted from another part of the stadium. A group of humans were racing motorcycles around a track at speeds that the alien sensors classified as suicidally fast. The motorcycle demonstration started. Minji clapped excitedly. "The riders are showing off their stunt skills today." The aliens watched as humans performed aerial maneuvers on powered vehicles that their safety systems classified as death machines. "And after this," Minji continued cheerfully, "we have a special treat. A demonstration of parkour." "What is parkour?" one brave delegate asked. "Oh, it's when people run, jump, and flip off buildings and obstacles. It's very popular with our youth." The alien delegates updated their cultural observation notes. Humans have transformed every possible deadly scenario into a recreational activity. They expose their young to these activities early, apparently to build immunity to fear. As they watched a parkour athlete leap between platforms, Minji checked her watch. "We should wrap up soon. I have a skydiving session scheduled for this evening." "You jump from flying vehicles?" an alien asked. "Yes, it's so peaceful up there. The free fall really helps me relax after a long day." The final note in the aliens' cultural exchange report read, "Most disturbing observation. Humans use activities that trigger mortal terror in other species as stress relief. They have somehow evolved to find comfort in situations that should cause extreme fear." Minji noticed their distress and tried to help. "Would you like to try something easier? Maybe some light sparring in the martial arts area?" The unanimous response of "no" echoed through the stadium, causing several human athletes to turn and look curiously at the alien delegation. Security Chief Jin Woo-nam was enjoying his morning coffee when the pirate attack began. The joint human-alien colony on Mars moon Phobos had never faced a real threat before. As alarms blared through the station, Jin Woo calmly finished his drink. "Status report." He called out to his mixed crew of humans and aliens. 3 pirate ships approaching. His alien deputy Kix reported, trembling. Their weapons are powered up. Only 3? Jinwoo asked, checking his console. That's not so bad. The alien crew stared at him in disbelief. Their sensors showed enough firepower to destroy the entire colony. Yet their human security chief was treating it like a minor inconvenience. Sir, Kix said nervously, the pirates are demanding we surrender the colony's resources. They're threatening to breach our hull if we refuse. Jinwoo stood up and stretched. Well, we can't have that. Tell the civilian staff to move to the inner chambers. Security team, prep for close combat. Close combat, one of the alien crew members squeaked. Against armed pirates. Of course, Jinwoo replied, checking his stunner weapon. We can't use heavy weapons inside the colony. Might damage important equipment. The pirates' first boarding party cut through the outer airlock. They were surprised to find the defense team waiting for them, led by a human who looked almost bored. Last chance to leave peacefully, Jinwoo announced to the pirates. When they raised their weapons in response, he sighed. The hard way, then. What followed would be discussed in horrified whispers throughout the galaxy for years to come. Jinwoo and his human security officers moved with shocking speed, disarming pirates with their bare hands. The aliens watched as their human colleagues ignored injuries that would have incapacitated most species. Sir, you're bleeding. Kix called out in alarm as Jinwoo wrestled a pirate twice his size. Just a scratch, Jinwoo replied, continuing to fight. Had worse playing rugby. The alien crew's observation logs filled with terrifying notes. Humans engage in physical combat as if their bodies are not easily damaged. They appear to ignore pain that would paralyze our species. Their reaction speed exceeds safety limits of most known species. The pirates, who had never faced human defenders before, began to retreat in panic. They had expected the usual response from alien colonies, immediate surrender to preserve life. Instead, they found themselves facing creatures that seemed to enjoy the combat. They're running away, one of Jinwoo's human officers reported, sounding disappointed. Chase them back to their ships, Jinwoo ordered, but try not to hurt them too badly. We want them to spread the word that this colony is off limits. The alien crew watched in amazement as the human security team not only drove off the pirates, but also captured one of their ships. Jinwoo immediately began planning to convert it into an emergency escape vessel for the colony. Shouldn't we destroy it? Kix asked. Waste of good equipment, Jinwoo replied. Besides, now we have a backup ship for evacuation drills. Evacuation drills. Of course, we should practice emergency procedures regularly. Maybe next week, I'll set up some simulated disasters. The alien crew added one final note to their report. Most terrifying observation. Humans not only survive crisis situations, but actively seek to recreate them for practice. They view potentially lethal scenarios as training opportunities. Later that day, Jinwoo submitted his incident report. Under notable concerns, he wrote only one line. Coffee machine damaged in combat. Requisitioning replacement. High priority. The alien administrative staff, reading his report, couldn't decide which was more disturbing. The casual handling of a pirate attack, or the fact that the human considered his coffee machine the most serious casualty of the day. The Galactic Council's emergency session was the largest gathering in its history. Ambassador Hai-Jin Moon sat calmly in the center of the vast chamber, sipping her tea, while thousands of alien representatives debated about humanity's place in the galaxy. They survived a pirate attack through hand-to-hand combat. One representative shouted. Their engineer walked through lethal radiation. Another added. They jump out of aircraft for fun. A third chimed in. Hai-Jin raised her hand politely, waiting for the chaos to settle. If I may address the council. The chamber fell silent as she stood. Several representatives moved back when they realized her environmental suit was merely a formal decoration. She was breathing the chamber's air directly. I understand your concerns, Hai-Jin began, her voice gentle but firm. But I think there's been a misunderstanding. You keep calling humans dangerous and fearless. The truth is, we're actually quite careful." The chamber erupted in confused murmuring. "Careful?" the council leader asked in disbelief. "You expose your young to predators as pets." "Yes, but we train them properly," Hyjin explained. "We have safety measures for everything. When we go skydiving, we have backup parachutes. When we handle dangerous materials, we wear protective gear. When we fight, we have rules and referees." She pulled up a holographic display showing human safety protocols. "See, we have warning labels on our coffee cups to prevent burns. We put railings on high places. We have traffic lights to control vehicle movement." The alien representatives stared at the safety measures in confusion. But one spoke up. "If you understand the concept of danger enough to create safety protocols, why do you still do these things?" Hyjin smiled. "Because we believe the benefits outweigh the risks when proper precautions are taken. We don't think we're invincible. We just think these activities are normal parts of life that can be made reasonably safe." "You consider radiation exposure reasonably safe?" another representative asked. "With proper shielding and monitoring, yes. Everything in life carries some risk. We simply try to manage those risks while still living fully." The council leader's voice shook slightly. Are you saying humans are actually aware of how dangerous these activities are?" "Of course," Hyjin replied, looking surprised. "Why do you think we spend so much time developing safety equipment? We know we can die. We just don't let that stop us from doing what needs to be done." A horrified silence fell over the chamber. "They know," one representative whispered. "They know these things can kill them, and they do them anyway. They're not ignorant. They're calculating." Hyjin watched in confusion as the alien representatives began updating their species threat assessments. She hadn't meant to frighten them more, but her explanation of human risk assessment had somehow made them even more terrified. "To clarify," she added helpfully, "we actually enjoy finding ways to make dangerous things safer. We call it engineering and progress." The council's final report that day contained a new classification for humans. Species demonstrates aware and intentional interaction with lethal conditions. They have evolved beyond mere survival to deliberately engage with deadly situations while maintaining full knowledge of risks. Most concerning, they consider this behavior normal and reasonable. As Hyjin left the chamber, she heard one alien representative ask another, "Do you think they engineered their pets to be less deadly or more deadly?" She chuckled to herself, making a mental note to not mention selective breeding programs right now. The council didn't seem ready to learn how humans had transformed wolves into puppies, or how they had bred other species to be even more effective at their original purposes. "One step at a time," she muttered, checking her schedule for her evening rock climbing session. "They're still getting used to the basics." Dr. Dahyun Choi stood before the Galactic Science Academy, her presentation ready. After 6 months of studying how other species viewed humans, she had finally figured out why they found humanity so terrifying. More importantly, she had a solution. "Distinguished colleagues," she began, "today we'll discuss a new classification system for species based on their relationship with danger." The alien scientists watched nervously as she pulled up her first chart. Some of them had worked with her in the lab and were still recovering from watching her catch a spider with her bare hands, calling it cute. "Our current system of categorizing species as dangerous or non-dangerous is too simple," Dahyun explained. "I propose we look at it differently. It's not about what a species can survive, but how they view survival itself." She showed a video of various species reacting to threats. Most fled immediately. Some fought back if cornered. Humans, however, showed a unique pattern. They studied the threat and looked for ways to use it. "See this footage of early human history." Dahyun pointed to a scene of ancient humans learning to control fire. "We didn't just survive fire. We learned to make it, control it, and use it. We do this with everything." The alien scientists murmured among themselves as she continued. When we find something dangerous, we don't just avoid it. We study it, understand it, and often turn it into something useful. We learn to ride predators, swim in deep water, and climb tall mountains not because we had to, but because we wanted to. One brave scientist raised an appendage. But why? Why take unnecessary risks? Dahyun smiled. Because to us, understanding and controlling danger is normal. It's how we evolved. Earth is what you call a death world. But to us, it's just home. We don't think we're brave or special. We think this is how everyone approaches problems. She showed more data. Humans using deadly plants as medicine, turning toxic substances into food preservatives, and converting dangerous natural forces into energy sources. The reason we seem terrifying isn't that we're extremely tough, though we are quite resilient. It's that we see danger as a puzzle to be solved rather than a threat to be avoided. The Academy members watched in fascination as she explained how humans had turned nearly every deadly thing on Earth into either a tool, a sport, or a snack. I propose a new classification: Danger Interactive Species. We don't just survive dangers. We interact with them, study them, and often domesticate them. This isn't bravery or foolishness. It's simply our way of life. An alien scientist spoke up. But your children, you teach them to interact with dangers too. Of course, Dahyun replied. We teach them to swim so they won't drown, to handle hot things carefully so they won't burn, to make friends with animals so they won't fear them. Knowledge replaces fear. Her final slide showed a human child learning to cook, supervised by adults. We don't think it's strange to teach our young to safely handle fire, just like we don't think it's strange to study radiation, explore space, or keep predators as pets. To us, this is normal. The Academy was silent for a long moment. Finally, the head scientist spoke. Dr. Choi, are you saying that the truly terrifying thing about humans is not what they can survive, but how they think about survival itself? Exactly. Dahyun beamed. We don't think we're doing anything special. We think everyone would naturally want to study dangerous things, find ways to make them safe, and then use them for fun or profit. Isn't that normal? The Academy's final report that day contained a new advisory. Warning: humans do not merely survive. They actively seek to understand, control, and repurpose everything that could kill them. Most unsettling of all, they consider this behavior to be completely normal and expect other species to think the same way. As Dahyun packed up her presentation materials, she wondered why everyone had looked so worried. After all, she'd only suggested they start a small program teaching other species how to safely handle dangerous materials. Maybe I'll save the extreme sports exhibition for next time, she muttered to herself.